My name is Annette Clapsaddle, and this is my impact story. I'm a 2003 Yale graduate. I earned my bachelor's in American Studies with a concentration in Native American Studies while at Yale. And I also earned my secondary teaching license through the Yale Teacher Prep program that was available to me while I was on campus. My time at Yale was spent working off campus as part of the teacher prep program and mentorship programs as I worked toward becoming a secondary English teacher. And then also, I worked for the Yale women's basketball team for a few years while I was at Yale. The majority of my involvement outside of the classroom really took place as being a member and an officer with the Association of Native American Students at Yale. It was a completely formative experience for me. I came to Yale primarily because of the recruitment that was taking place for qualified Native students in high schools across the country. And Dean Richard Chavoya, who was at Yale at the time, called my house and spoke to me about Yale University. I am from Cherokee, North Carolina. This is the community where the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians is rooted. That's where our capital is, and was not intending to apply to Yale until I received that call from Dean Tavoya. My parents said to me they'd be willing to pay the application fee if I wanted to apply. So that's how I ended up at Yale. And Dean Chavoya continued to be a mentor to me, and I became involved with the Native American Student Association during my time at Yale, largely because of him. The combination between my experience in the American Studies program, my involvement with the Native American Student Association, and also my drive to become a teacher in a public school back home in North Carolina really came together and has become part and parcel of what my mission, I think, is today. So this past year, in the fall of 2020, my debut novel, Even As We Breathe, was published by the University Press of Kentucky. I've been a writer my entire life, and certainly took courses at Yale that helped me in that process of developing my writing craft. And this novel really speaks to what it's like to come from a rural community such as my own and go into a foreign environment, and the implications that has for one's identity, and also how individuals from these communities can influence these larger communities as well. So Even As We Breathe is set the summer of 1942 in two places, in Asheville, North Carolina, and in Cherokee, North Carolina. In the summer of 1942, the Grove Park Inn and Resort, which is a high-class resort in Asheville, held access diplomats and foreign nationals as prisoners of war. My protagonist, County Sequoia, is a 19-year-old Cherokee man who leaves his home to go work in Asheville that summer. It's about a 2-hour drive in 1942. And he is eventually accused of being involved in the disappearance of a diplomat's daughter. So the novel looks at these issues of place, of belonging, of citizenship, race, and class, and is really a commentary on how we make these classifications of human beings at different points in our history. So it looks at how war influences these decisions, how place influences these decisions, and also how these fleeting identity markers such as skin and blood and DNA really lead us to some interesting categorization of human beings. All of these things, all of these topics are certainly familiar to anyone who has been involved in the American Studies program at Yale. It's these dialogues that program has always had, dialogues that Yale has long held valuable. And so my own writing, I hope, is a source to continue that dialogue, to represent a voice that has actually never been heard before. I am the first published novelist from my tribe, from the Eastern Band of Cherokee. And I think it's long overdue, and I hope that I can use my experience to promote other voices from my community. I also will say that I think one of my most important impacts that I can make in my community is to be a public school teacher. I work in Swain County High School. That's where I am right now, actually. And I work with a diverse population where 30% of our student population is Cherokee. And I hope to bridge the gap between cultures in our community, to expose our students to other communities that we are very much isolated from, by bringing in literature, bringing in other authors that I have been able to connect with through my own writing or through Yale Alumni Association, and give these students in the small rural part of Western North Carolina the exposure that they would not have otherwise. I find it so rewarding to be able to share my experiences at Yale with my students. When my students learn where I went to college, they then feel more emboldened to pursue that type of education themselves. And I've helped mentor students through the process of applying to Yale and other Ivy Leagues since I've been here. These students have told me they would not have even considered it a possibility if they didn't actually know someone who was from a small community in Western North Carolina and attended prestigious universities like Yale. So I think that's one of the most important jobs of my life. I'm also raising two young boys who I hope to instill those same values in as well. The last thing I want to say is just to recount one of my first experiences when I was on campus at Yale. And my mother and I were, I think it was Bulldog Days, and we were on old campus and had met up with the director of the teacher prep program at that time. And my mother asked him why someone would go to Yale to become a teacher when you could go anywhere in the country to become a teacher. And the response I got, I think, is very emblematic of Yale's philosophy. He said, "Why would you not become a teacher? When someone receives a world-class education, your primary goal should be to share that with as many people as possible. And being an educator allows me to do that." So I'm so grateful for my experience. I'm so grateful for the support of the Alumni Network since I graduated. Thank you.